everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. This will be a discussion. I'm going to start getting into tabs. I'm going to start talking about some details about the book, so if you're interested in those, definitely keep watching. One of the things that I'm sure if you've read this book you understand is how compelling Wavy and Kellen's story is, and the only reason that their love story works as a love story is because of how awful Wavy's childhood is and how horrendously she was brought up and the trauma that she's gone through in her young life by the time we meet her. She's been bathed in bleach. She's been told that she's dirty. She's been told that nothing should enter her body because it's dirty and it'll make her dirty. She's been told not to trust men, not to let them touch her. Isn't eating. She's not speaking. She's very, very small for her age already. Because of those things. Those were so difficult to read about as you're going through and hearing fear for Donald because he was doing something and she knew that mom was coming with the bleach and she had to get the baby away or else the baby was going to be subjected to the bleach. And you knew that that's what had happened to her. I think somebody's saying, like, I wouldn't speak either if the last time I tried to speak, my mother grabbed my face so hard and told me to shut up and not speak. Deeply troubled. I'm going to get into a couple different quotes where she's parenting her parents. She's cleaning up after them on these drug binges. There's nobody to care for this girl. Kellen comes in and does it, and genuinely does it from a good place at first, and makes sure she has clothes that fit her and shoes that don't have holes in them, and gets to school. She needs that, and there's so many written instances in here where she's terrified to let herself care because she knows nothing is hers, and that's a prevalent theme throughout here. Nothing belongs to her, nothing is permanent, nothing is hers to keep, and he finally is. If it weren't for how troubled her past was, you would never root for this relationship, but oh my gosh, did I? And she's also very clear from when you're reading inside of her own thoughts and mind about how much she loves him and wants to be with him physically, and how she initiates and wants it to go there, which makes it hard to villainize him too as well. It was such a complex book in terms of how it made you feel. And I mentioned it in the earlier part, but you would start to just root for them so hard and stop seeing the wrongness of their age gap. And then you'd get an outside point of view, like a teacher or a judge or something, and you go, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't believe I'm rooting for this. And I thought that part of it was really well written and thought out. But let's jump into some of these examples, because I have a couple page numbers down here. And there were a couple instances as I buddy read this with Allie and Dylan that I like texted them and I was like, what the fuck did I just read? Did I just really hear him described this way? Like, I was floored. So we're gonna get into this. Page 52, we get the use of the word retard. I think he's scary in his own lumbering retard way. Again, describing Kellen. Page 56, we're reading from Dee, who is Liam's girlfriend. Kellen shrugged. He wasn't retarded, but he was definitely slow. Dee thought it was a fetus alcohol thing. That's why his eyes were slanted too. Or maybe because he was Indian. Flat-faced too. What the hell? But then she has sex with him. So that's a thing that happened. Another instance on page 65 where Kellen obsesses over how small Wavy is, which is one of the things that made their relationship creepy, because he always talked about how tiny she was and how small she felt in his arms and how small she felt pressed up against him on the motorcycle. Flimsy her nightgown was. And he, even before having a sexual relationship with her, sexualized her, but in a childish way. One of the things that I think really set me on edge about the relationship, because I did start rooting for it at one point, but that always felt wrong to me. So she was so small it kind of scared Dee, saying she won't sit on anybody's lap but Kellen's. They say that he's her boyfriend. So then they're like leaving this biker situation, and he says, she put her arms around my neck and I gave her my hands for stirrups, like I was her horse and she was a cowgirl trying to make a quick escape from the hostile Indians, except I was the Indian and we were both trying to escape from the hostile saloon girls. That's on page 68. Even now he's demeaning himself, which I just didn't like that. So then on page 69, she turns to her side, lays her hands on my belly, this is from Kellen's point of view, and slid it down to my belt buckle. I had to grit my teeth not to squirm. She had a way of making me feel ticklish. Like, she definitely initiates touch, and I think that's because he does respect that she doesn't like to be touched. And he doesn't expect her to touch, or doesn't touch her without making sure it's okay with her. He doesn't push her. She pushes boundaries a lot. He says that he takes her face in both of his hands, turns it up so that he could lean down and kiss her on the mouth, but nothing dirty. The kind of kiss you give somebody if you love them. And I said it's immediately dirty if you have to point out that it's not dirty. That was on page 76. You do have Kellen at some points admitting that he's murdered people before, so you gotta keep in mind that, like, yeah, he's got a hard life, but at the same time, like, dude kills people. for a living. Kellen's at Liam's house. She nodded carefully not to bump against his jaw. He squeezed me tight, almost as tight as I needed. Tight enough to let me know that he wasn't too afraid of Liam. Tight enough to tell me that I was important to him. A little tighter, and I would know that I was more important than anything else. And that was what I wanted. That is heartbreaking because she so desperately just wants to belong to somebody and to be cared for and to be loved. And in that situation, you've got, I think they had just been arrested because they'd been out at the racetracks. They had to come and get picked up from the police station, and she is overjoyed that all that happened because he protected her and he loves her and he was holding her. Like, that's all she wants. So then we have another situation where, like, that detective has given her his business card. She rips it up because she's like, I don't trust the police. She comes home and she crawled back up the trellis where Donald was asleep in her room, safe. In the morning, I went downstairs and got breakfast for him. Mama and Liam were in bed naked. Uncle Sean was on the couch with a needle on the floor next to him. I picked it up and laid it on the coffee table. Safe. So that's what she's growing up with. 126 over here. Kellen is hugging Wavy and she says he smells good, like sweat and motorcycles and wintergreen. No stinking weed smoke, no perfume, no sadness. He smelled like love. And then her mom and Donald get in a car accident running from the house. And her father does not want Wavy to stay with him. He only wants Donald. He wants her to go back up to the farmhouse and stay up there completely by herself. So he makes Kellen take her back up to the farmhouse. Plenty of times I'd wanted to beat the crap out of Liam, but never as bad as I did when he told Wavy to get out. Her whole face went blank and stayed that way until we walked out. Again, she just wants somebody to take care of him. She pointed at him and said, live with you. And he said, you can't live with me. Other people wouldn't like you living with me since I'm not your family. She says, get married. And he said, if who got married? She pointed at me, and in that slow way she had, brought her finger back to her chest. I couldn't help it, I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I was shocked. She looked right through me, like I wasn't there. She wasn't joking, and I wished I could take it back. I'm not laughing at you, sweetheart, but you know we can't get married. Why? I'm a good wife, she said. I know you'd be a good wife. I like your cooking, and you clean the house, and you know how to keep the books. I mean, if it was just about that, or about me wanting to be with you, but you're too young to get married. And he has to say over and over again that I do love you. I love you all the way, while they're up in her bedroom together. Then he gets his motorcycle painted with the Orion symbol because, again, stars and constellations. And it's probably one of the most beautiful things that anybody's ever done for a person. And it disturbed me because it was so cute. The motorcycle was beautiful with stars all over the fenders spinning out around the gas cap in a deep shimmery blue, like August when the moon was dark. No matter how much he teases me, Kellen put all the stars the way they were supposed to be. Cassiopeia and Capheus in the center and the rest of them tumbling away on the sides. Squeezed under Kellen's thighs while he rode was Orion, the 3 stars of his belt glinting. Every star was a tiny scrap of silver foiled into the gas tank under the clear enamel. Looking at it, my heart hurt so much I almost couldn't believe. Nothing belonged to me, but the rule didn't keep me from wanting Kellen to be only for me. I can't handle it. And then she points to the bike and the seat behind him and says, that's only for me. She's like a possessive little thingy. And then he buys her an engagement ring and they get engaged. Then Kellen talks to his boss and his boss is like, yeah, I married my wife when she was 14, but I didn't touch her till we got married. So he says, you know, I proposed to her and I said I was going to marry her, but if she gets old enough to actually get married and she doesn't want me anymore, that's fine. I just want her to know that she's loved and she's safe, which is beautiful. And at this point, nothing's happened physically between them. Here's just a heartbreaking part of the book because Wavy and Kellen are getting physical, which is also just deeply disturbing. On page 184-85, Wavy's trying to unzip his zipper. And he's saying, you can't do that. And she said, I want to. I think she's giving him a blowjob. Immediately, he gets like freaked out. He's like, oh, Jesus, Wavy, Jesus fucking Christ, what are we doing? You have to get up. And she said, I did it wrong. He said, no, no, no. But Wavy, it's not okay for you to do that. It's dirty for you to do that. And she freaks out. Being dirty or dirty things going into her mouth or being considered dirty is definitely a trigger for her after all that her mother's put her through. He immediately realizes the error of his word choice. She says, Mama's right, I am dirty. And she went running. She left. Wherever she got those ideas, she was only 13. All those times I said, I'm not that kind of guy, but maybe I was that kind of guy. What happened hadn't just happened. I'd have plenty of time to put a stop to it, and I didn't. I liked kissing her. I liked all of it, no matter how messed up that was. And as much as I wanted to, I couldn't blame the booze. I don't think I'd ever been as sober as I was right then. And this is the first time that he also acknowledges that, like, he could have stopped it long before right now, and he chose not to. And he keeps saying over and over again, he's not a pedophile, he's not thinking about her that way, but he has been. And he clearly let this happen, has like all these suicidal thoughts, and decides not to go through with it because he knows if he does, then there's nobody there for her, which is like, oh, I can't handle it. She starts washing herself in bleach and freaking out because she's dirty. And he comes in and tries to help her, and she said, no one can touch me. I'm dirty. I'll make you dirty. And he said, you're not dirty. She said, dirty whore. You're not dirty and you're not a whore. And he couldn't take the scrubbing anymore or the sound of her feeling dirty. And even knowing she wouldn't like it, I reached out to stop her. She screamed and tried to shove me away, but I caught hold of her hands and caught the bar of soap and the washcloth away from her. Her arms were slippery, too hard to hold. She jerked free and managed to punch me smack in the left eye, lit the whole inside of my skull up. I've been in bar fights where I didn't get decked that hard, but once I had her tucked under my arm, she wasn't big enough to put up a real fight against me. She'd been washing in cold water and bleach. Understand, obviously, why he did what he did and tried to stop her from doing what she was doing, but that's also like a consent issue going on there. Like, so far, everything's been very consensual. He's always been very, very careful with the way that he handles her. And in this situation, he's like, I know she doesn't like it. I know she's fighting me. I know she's telling me don't to touch me, but like, he has to stop her. The mom screams, like, you guys are making too much noise up there. Shut up. And he screams down, you stupid bitch. I could be up here raping her and you wouldn't even get your ass out of bed to come and see why she's screaming. What the fuck is wrong with you? And the mom never answers. Never says a thing. Wavy asks, why is it dirty if you liked it? She said, because you're 13, you're not old enough. And she said, I'm old enough to like it. I've been so hellfire against anybody turning it into something nasty that that's what I had done. Wavy, this is yours, he said, giving back the ring. I gave you this because I love you. I love you, Wavy. Now put your ring back on. It's not dirty. I was stupid to say that. It's not dirty if you love me as much as I love you. And I love you all the way, but we gotta go slow. We went too fast tonight. I don't want you to get hurt. Yikes. And then Wavy says, even if he didn't want to touch me, I could accept that, but I wanted to touch him. That was never against the rules before, and now it was. If he wouldn't touch me, that was bearable, but to have him look away from me, I needed him to see me. She keeps thinking that she's too dirty to touch. No, sweetheart, I told you, you're not. You're beautiful. I love you, but you're only 13. We can't be fooling around. You didn't make me dirty. You couldn't because you're not dirty. She says, well, then if I'm not dirty, you're not dirty. And then she tries to touch him and she can't. And he says, Wavy, you're breaking my heart. I don't know what to do. He's trying to not touch her. He's trying to not have a physical relationship with her anymore. But she needs the physical touch to feel okay. Like, she needs to know that that one person that she was okay with touching hasn't turned their back on her and doesn't think she's dirty and won't perpetuate the theme that she is. So the fact that he's trying to put a stop on the physical affection and that's what she's wanting, like, it's, how do you fight that? Like, how do you say, like, no, they shouldn't be doing it? It is. And then she's still 13 on page 195 where he finally is like, all right, like, if this is what you need, then this is what you need. I mean, I want it too, so I'm gonna let it happen. And then she goes like really slow. Like, I think she's giving him a handy and she's going really slow and he's like, you're killing me. She goes, you said slow. She's like teasing with him. Like, she understands what she's doing and what's going on here. Then I think she turns 14. He gets her father's permission to get married to her. But before any of that can happen, her mom and dad are found dead. They've been murdered by Uncle Sean. Uncle Sean is really Donald's dad. Donald has to leave with Uncle Sean and Wavy has to go with her aunt. And because the police are trying to frame Kellen, Kellen goes to jail for raping Wavy. Because she lies and says that they had sex even though they didn't. She lies and said that they had sex and that was his alibi for not committing the murder, but then he still goes away anyway for being a pedophile. He has to register. He can't have contact with her. She writes him all these letters while he's in jail. He's not allowed to accept them. Her aunt starts lying and hiding information about parole hearings and when he gets released, and aunt's doing what she thinks is best, but the whole entire time Wavy goes to school, she goes to college, she grows up, she doesn't date, she doesn't see anybody else, she still wears her wedding ring, and she waits for Kellen to get out of jail. Part of his getting out of jail is that he's not allowed to have contact with her. Meanwhile, she waited that whole time just for him to get out so that they could be together. And I think by the time that he gets out, she's 19, an adult, and able to make her own decisions, and the court still says you're not allowed to be in contact with him at all. Wavy ends up going to the judge and saying, like, listen, like, I see a picture of your family on your desk. Like, he's my family. He's all I have, and I love him, and you can't, I'm an adult now. You can't tell me I can't be around him. I have to be with him until the judge agrees and lifts the order so that they can be together. And then they get married. He gets his motorcycle back and they ride off on their motorcycle to Vegas and get married. I've been recording for well over 45 minutes now, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. But towards the end of the book, I really struggled because Kellen's in jail and Wavy's trying to go through her life with her aunt and college, and you're watching her aunt kind of go behind her back. I just didn't care about any of that. Like, I wanted to see the two of them together. And Donald comes back and there's all that like drama of like Uncle Sean ODing and dying and Donald being on his own for a while until they can get custody and bring him back home. I didn't care. So as much as I really liked the beginning of the book, the end of it really, it didn't really move me necessarily. Parts where I was like, yes, like super rooting for them, like, you're 19 and legal and you do you. But obviously if you've gotten to this part of the book, you understand it's troubled and it's deep and it's dark and it's not nice. It's not a nice book in terms of topic, but it was beautifully written. And at the end of the day, I really enjoyed it. Again, not okay with a person of color being the villain, not okay with the word usage, not okay with all the different points of view that I didn't feel like were necessary all the time. But in general, I enjoyed the book. One of the things that makes it difficult too is you see Kellen trying to tell himself over and over again not to touch her, and then you see Wavy over and over again needing that touch. So it's hard as a reader to identify the relationship as wrong when it's so clearly what this little girl needs and you want her to have whatever she needs. It put you in a moral dilemma as you were reading. It really did. I think it's problematic. I mean, it's represented as what it is, and I think that's accurately done. I hope that this has been a more comprehensive review as opposed to my other reviews. I know that this is a popular book right now, and if you're looking for somebody to discuss these things with, if you were troubled by them, or if you enjoyed different parts of this book, I would like to open up that conversation in the comments. I also am not going to say that this is completely comprehensive and that I've touched on every single subject. I'm sure that although I found some problematic issues in this book, there's others that I'm missing. I encourage you to point those out in the comments as well if you want to. Overall, do I recommend the book? Yes. Do I think you should know ahead of time going into it that it's about pedophilia and drug abuse and abuse of children? Yeah, like, you should know that. I still am glad I read it. I think being made to think and feel as a reader in ways that make you uncomfortable, it's not a bad thing. Okay, I don't think that's a bad thing. That's my review of All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. Let's talk about it down in the comments, but for now, that's everything. If you like this video, be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.